bag, wash your hands and you're inside.
Fruit time has finished. Inside packaway has finished. What can we do after we finish building? Play with some cars.
Look at Naomi. Can you guess how Naomi's feeling? Proud! So super duper proud.
No, that's funny.
Oh, thank you. We just need the box for now, and you put the solutions box down. Hey, what about this card? What does this one say? Please help.
So you can come here and read a book. We can remind ourselves to breathe in and breathe out. We can smell a flower. Breathe out a candle. These are all ways to help us to breathe and calm down.
So the research in Australia is in its infancy really. We've done a couple of studies. Those studies have been a small trial to show that it was possible to implement the pyramid model in an Australian context and that it would be acceptable and feasible to educators to actually undertake it. That small study showed that it is. It does produce good outcomes for educators. Educators feel really enthused by the project and educators feel really supported with the framework. In fact, educators say things like, it's really changed my practice and this is the way I always wanted to be, and suddenly I've found that I can be. I've found that I can be more the educator I always wanted to be, and the team around me can be more supportive together of one another in a way that I hadn't understood we could do, and that produces changes for children and it produces changes for parents. So families have suddenly seen that they can do things a little differently and it makes big effects for their children and for their family life. One of the things I hadn't expected, we started the initial study in the middle of the year, so it was started in May. I hadn't expected that parents would really notice much change, but in fact they did. They noticed great change. So by the end of the study, which in that instance was in November, the parents were reporting by and large that they had seen changes in their children, they'd definitely seen changes in the educators, and they were very enthusiastic about the way in which the trial had altered the way their relationship with the kindergarten was happening, but also the way in which their children were able to go off to school. We had great support from parents and have continued to have great support from parents once they understand what we're trying to do. So in terms of teacher practice, what happened was that the educators were able to be more systematic in their approach to children, systematic in their support for families, and we showed that there was specific changes in a measure we call the Teaching Pyramid Observation Tool, or the TPOT. There was changes so that Australian educators were able to get to being high-level practitioners of the pyramid model, and those behaviours that changed in the educators also supported changes in the children. Children were more able to use their language to be emotionally literate, more able to explain themselves generally, and some of the children were children who were less socially competent at the start than some of the others. We found that whilst their language in terms of social emotional skills built so that they were more socially competent by the end, their actual level of language overall was changed, but not significantly. But their level of social emotional language had changed significantly.
Let's have a look. Oh, I just really love this book so much. It's one of my favourite.
Kind of sad.
It is kind of sad, you're right. The Lamb-a-Roo. Oh, stripes. The Lamb-a-Roo. In the middle of the wilderness was a lamb. He was very small, very sad. He was sad and all alone. "Ma," said the lamb, "I want a ma." Look, how's he feeling? Sad. Can you show me your sad face? Sad and lonely.
From the research we've done so far, it was really important that we do the next level of research, which is to look at how we can implement this system-wide, because we know that there are very important changes that need to happen for educators to be able to be sufficiently supported in their behavioural change by their organisations, by their administrators, and by the other people who come in and support them. For instance, if you've got a child who's producing challenging behaviour, then the support people around you, the ones who are helping you to change your practices to support this child with challenging behaviour, need to understand what you're doing and the framework you're working within, so that they can also be consistent in the way in which they're helping you to change. So that research is ongoing at the moment. The other thing is that in an Australian context, whilst there is some opportunity for coaching, at the moment we don't have large-scale opportunities for coaching. So we're looking systematically at what changes when we have incidental coaching through peer networks, what changes when we have system-wide availability of support, and when there is intermittent coaching available. So we're looking at those things to see how that supports and whether we really need to have the ideal circumstance, which we'd love to have, of coaches being available regularly. Educators always think that coaching will be a really scary thing that will be difficult for them to accept. But in fact, what happens once they start with realising that the coaching support that they're getting is support that they want, it's about the things that they're concerned about, it's not about the things that other people are talking to them about out of left field, it's about the things that they're asking of themselves, the things they're trying to do for themselves at the moment, and how that works for them. So the coaching support is really something that educators actually want. By the end of the project, educators were asking for more coaching rather than wanting it to stop. Educators were saying, "Can I get this ongoing?" That was really exciting.